Are we all ready? Yeah?
Yes.
Everybody's been let in from the waiting room.
Okay.
The floor is yours.
Good afternoon and welcome everybody to the San Mateo County Harbor District regular meeting of November 18th, 2020. Melanie, would you do roll call, please?
Commissioner Ryring,
Present.
Commissioner Chang-Crowley,
Present.
Commissioner Matoush,
Present.
Commissioner Brennan, and Commissioner Lorenas.
We have a quorum for our meeting, so we will begin by going to public comment. Melanie, I know you may need a few minutes to be able to share the screen timer with us, so please get that ready and let me know when I can call on the public. In the meantime, I will note that the public may speak for 2 minutes on any agenda item that is not on the agenda today, or any item of public interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of our harbor board that is not on the regular agenda. Are we ready, Melanie?
Yep.
Okay, let me see. Allison M., I see your hand raised.
Morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, it's a little
Great.
quiet, but I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I just want to take a couple minutes here to congratulate the early winners, Tom Madish and Virginia Chang-Crowley. I'm very pleased that there's continuity and consistency moving forward. As we all know, there's some things that are far, far in the past, and then there's certain things since 2012 that have been going on that have not served the county, the residents of the county. And I'm just really excited that you guys solidified the professionalism that has been going on the last couple years with Virginia, Nancy, and Tom, and that you appear to have added, as soon as the swearing in happens, this new person. I'm not aware of who that is. And then of course, Ed. And I would just like to ask, I don't know in all of these meetings, if the editors or writers, journalists of the Half Moon Bay newspaper are present, but I would like you to follow up on an opinion piece in which Mr. Lorenas criticized the board for not inviting the public onto certain committees. And there was a lot of clarification there about what really has been going on. But in the course of that, I pointed out that it was ironic that he had kind of slapped me down for speaking in public comments. And then it came to my, what I believe is my knowledge after reasonable and diligent inquiry that he may not have had the degree conferred upon him by the institution that he claims as an educational matter. And I think it's very serious. I would be disbarred for that. And I've been doxxed on these meetings by some minions of a board member, and I'd like that followed up on, please. I think my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. I don't see any other hands raised. Lizzie, do you?
No, that appears to be it for now.
Okay, great. So I don't believe we have any committee updates, do we? I don't think so. So before we move, hang on a second. Do I see, I just hear dinging and then I need to look for hands up. I don't see anything. All right, to begin the agenda, we will start with the consent calendar. We have 7 items on the consent calendar today. Do I have a motion to approve, or do the commissioners have any items they would like to pull?
I'll move to approve the consent calendar.
And Mr. Matoush, I saw your hand up too.
I did have some comments to make about bills and claims, but we don't necessarily pull it if you don't want to, but I just had a few comments.
Oh, no, if you want to pull it, I'll withdraw my motion, or I'll amend it to not include bills and claims so that we can approve the rest of the consent calendar.
I'll second that.
Okay.
All
So
right,
the consent calendar, it's the motion to approve the consent calendar except the bills and claims.
correct. Roll call, Melanie?
Commissioner Ryring?
Yes.
President Ryring, I see that there's a hand raised.
Okay, so we have closed public comment. Should I don't know if this is a member, I don't recognize this name.
If a member of the public wants to speak regarding the consent calendar, we should let them speak.
Oh, okay, it's regarding the consent calendar. All right, Jill Grant.
Hi, everybody. I actually wanted to speak previously, but I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand. So if you like, I can speak now, or I can just email you my comments.
You're welcome to go ahead, Jill.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask about dredging of the Pillar Point Harbor. This King's Tide the past weekend exposed quite a bit of eelgrass growing by the Surfers Beach jetty. So this is on the just north of the Surfers Beach jetty, and that would it's not the area that you guys are talking about today in the agenda. It's on the other side, and so the clam diggers were digging there, and I'm wondering if we're going to start dredging or if there's a plan, because I'm concerned that eelgrass is just going to start taking over and we're going to have a real problem. Because I know it's in other areas. So I just wanted to make that comment. You don't need to answer it or anything. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Jill. Just as a point of order, Tricia, in a case like this where a member of the public has information and questions, I would just like to recommend that she get a hold of John Moran, and his email address, I think, is on our website, should be on our website. He is our operations manager. So I don't know if she's even still on the call. All right, maybe she missed that. All right. But thank you, Jill. And we will continue now with the agenda. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent items except for bills and claims. And I don't think we've had roll call for that yet, have we?
No, we haven't.
Okay, so roll call.
Commissioner Chan-Corrali,
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan, Commissioner Lorenz, Commissioner Ryring.
Aye. The motion carries. We can move to bills and claims now for your comments before we move to discussion items. Tom?
Right, I noticed we're still paying Caspian IT. I know that we switched to, I believe it's Think Connected. And I would just encourage us to terminate that $1,500 a month there. It's really troublesome to see what we're paying San Mateo County airports to store sand there. I don't know if there's a way, perhaps Brad has an idea or somebody, can we stop paying the county? And even if we have to move the sand back beside the kayak operation, I don't know what the difference between aging the sand and paying $5,000 a month and aging the sand and just getting ready to dump it, or when we're ready to dump it. But just some little things. Today I had to sign a check for COVID janitorial. There was something, and just every way that we can look at picking up operational efficiency, I look forward to helping in any way we possibly can. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner Matoush. That's a really interesting idea about the sand storage.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the bills and claims.
Second.
Roll call, Melanie?
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan, Commissioner Lorenz, Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Chan-Corrali.
Aye.
The motion carries. We'll move now to our first discussion item, item number 8, Pillar Point Harbor West Trail Living Shoreline Protection Project. This is a project status update only and proposal, and this is John Moran's item. John.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This item is for the board to receive an update presentation from consultant GHD on the Pillar Point Harbor West Trail Shoreline Protection Project and consider a proposal for continued engineering and permitting services for the project. The additional not to exceed project soft costs to GHD and their subcontractors include the following: $24,976 to Go Native for native plant germination for the dune and biofiltration basin, $42.90 for MTS for eelgrass survey specific to West Trail, $47,798 to GHD for pre-construction engineering, permitting, and project management, $24,976 to ESA for pre-construction engineering support and CEQA finalization, $10,500 to Bradley Damitz for permitting, coordination, and project planning assistance, $39.20 to Dr. Peter Bay for habitat restoration and monitoring plan development and native plant germination oversight. Staff recommends the board approve an increase in capital expenditure appropriations of an amount not to exceed $114,904 to cover anticipated additional soft costs for the GHD team to continue efforts on West Trail Shoreline Protection Project. We've got Brian Leslie and the GHD team who will now provide an update on the project progress and answer any questions. Brian?
Great. Yeah, thanks, John. Let me get things set up here. Yeah, so providing a project update to the commissioners today about the West Trail project. Essentially, we presented last to you in August, so we have some updates on permitting to share with you and some unanticipated tasks that we want to capture and move forward with, and also some tasks we want to move forward with that we're just kind of moving out of the construction phase and into this pre-construction phase to kind of get ready for construction. Essentially, the pandemic and the work from home orders, we just think has just delayed our project, unfortunately. The project is still really well liked by the agency, so we don't view the project as being negatively viewed by the agency. It's actually very positively viewed. It's just, we're just working through the process and kind of get into the details in the next few slides. Just a quick overview, and everyone's aware of the project, but it involves these two major components, shoreline protection component and a stormwater improvement component. So first thing we want to do is to stabilize this eroding segment of trail using a nature-based or living shoreline type of technique, a technique that's really favored by the state agencies at this moment. And we also want to improve the stormwater infrastructure that's in place. There's a failing segment of the the stormwater improvements, so that the concrete V-ditch on the hillside is failing that we want to improve, but we also want to improve the aesthetics and the function of the stormwater infrastructure by moving the stormwater into the Pillar Point Marsh through a new biofiltration basin. The project need was highlighted recently with the fires within the Pillar Point Harbor. So it's not just a recreational need to the community, but it's also this emergency vehicle access need. And quite a few emergency vehicles had to bypass or to use this trail to get by. And this trail is narrowing every year, and we recognize that. We know this is a high priority for the district, and we're working really hard to try to get this project through, pushing as hard as we can on the resource agencies. I want to share a brief project status with you. Engineering plan sets were submitted in August, and we're receiving kind of bits and pieces of comments from agencies, and we're just kind of holding on to them all because we want to have permitting progress a little bit more, make sure we address all comments at once. And again, these permits were submitted in July of this year, and we're just actively responding to requests for information and also points of clarity. And Brad is doing a great job of being in like almost weekly conversations with these agencies to try to move things forward. What's ahead of us, we're looking at hoping to go out to bid in January of next year and constructing in about March of next year. These are our new targets. And that would put us at a completion of construction in June of 21, which would then enter us into the monitoring and reporting phase of the project, which is a typical 5-year kind of program, which we'll talk about in a little more detail. At this point, I want to hand it off to Brad to give a more detailed update on permitting.
Thanks, Brian. So, as we've mentioned in the previous presentations, this project is a complicated one from a permitting perspective, and we knew that all along. It's complicated because it involves a nature-based kind of approach that hasn't been widely used in California. So the permitting agencies are still trying to figure out, are there unanticipated impacts? Are there, aspects of the design that are going to be of concern? But as well, it's a project that involves, work in the subtidal and intertidal areas. There's sensitive resources. It involves taking sand from one part of the harbor and moving it in, placing it as fill in another area. So as you can see from this slide, there's a number of different agencies involved, both in permitting and then just in project review. And the main ones for the permitting are the Army Corps of Engineers, Regional Water Quality Control Board, and Coastal Commission. But then there's others that are closely involved, such as US EPA and California Fish and Wildlife. So, our strategy from the beginning of the planning of this project, since we knew it was going to be a complex one, was to work with the permitting agencies early and often and kind of provide them iterative information anytime we had a new report or anything due. And this was something that was recommended by all the staff as well. We asked, what's the best way to get these permits as efficiently and quickly as possible? And they said, just keep doing what you're doing, keep us involved at all phases of the project. So we've held a lot of site visits and had a number of meetings, sometimes with multiple agencies, sometimes just with one agency, obviously recently completed over Zoom. And we've done a lot of different surveys and analyses. Some of them were ones that we expected to do. Others were ones that kind of came as a surprise that, they were looking, some of the agencies were looking at for specific information on certain aspects of the project. We have also addressed a number of the concerns that the agencies had about the project kind of from the beginning and modified the project plans and the engineering plans to address these concerns. And certain things like our initial proposed area where we were going to take the sand, dredge the sand to use for the project, was at the shoal that's in front of Pillar Point Marsh, and that kind of got shot down after a lot of discussion and analysis, and we had to go back to the drawing board, and now it's proposed an area that's closer to the west breakwater route. And kind of real quickly to address Commissioner Matush's comment about the stockpile at the airport, that is going to be used as part of this project. And we did submit permit applications early in the summer to try and get that moved and stockpiled down at the beach at the site, but that was denied by the agencies. So unfortunately, it has to stay there for a couple more months, but we're trying as hard as we can to get it out of there quickly. So as far as the permits, we're expecting, although the agencies can't tell us anything, we're expecting them to finalize everything by early winter at some point. Coastal Commission has told us they're shooting for January meeting. They're actively working on the staff report. Army Corps is finalizing some of their consultations, and Regional Board, we're not quite sure, but we know that they're reviewing it. We just haven't had a lot of response from them. So, things are moving along. The short of it is that since probably mid to late summer, the ball has been in the court of the agencies, and they're just kind of backlogged and furloughed and all kinds of things causing some delays, but they support the project and we expect to get it approved in the near future. And the CEQA process, we issued a draft initial study and mitigated negative declaration. Received a couple comments on that. We still need to finalize this, but that's just about complete. And part of the proposed work for ESA, who initially wrote the CEQA document, is going to just finalize the process and submit the final documentation. So that's about it for permitting. Sum it up, we're in the final stretch, but we're just kind of waiting to get some final approval from the permitting agencies, and we would like to and plan to put the project out to bid in advance of receiving permits as soon as we can get some sort of indication from the permitting agencies that there's not going to be any major changes to the design that we would need to make. So hand it back over to Brian.
Great. Thanks, Brad. So included within our proposal are these three major tasks, these pre-construction tasks: surveys, engineering, monitoring plans. A couple of these are unanticipated, like the eelgrass survey, the need to do a pre-con survey before we can construct. Secret document, which Brad mentioned. These two monitoring plans that I want to hit on, which are to both monitor the physical performance of the project, how the dune and gravel berm kind of moves with time, and kind of how we adapt over time, depending on how the responses we're seeing out there. But then also how the kind of the green components of the project, how the biofiltration basin and the dune kind of establishes with this native plant palette that we've formulated for the project. Then, of course, there's the final engineering plan set that I mentioned, where we know we have to do one last kind of brush off of the plans and get them off to bid based on all the little comments we're receiving. And then to provide some services, support services during bid period to help respond to contractor RFIs and kind of be available for meetings. And then to help kind of continue the task 2, which is to add some more permitting support as this permitting process drags on, and we need to keep being available for agency responses. We've got a piece in there to help continue supporting that. And then phase 3 or task 3 is for sub-consultant Go Native to build out to grow essentially some plants for our biofiltration basin, as well as our dune system. So that they're ready for planting in the fall of 2021. Just want to kind of acknowledge the studies that we've done to date. We've done a lot of work and been working as quick as we can to get these things done and get things approved. And I don't want to belabor on any of these points, but just want to say that if any of these studies are of interest, please feel free to reach out to myself or Brad, and we'll be happy to share those with you. As far as remaining costs, the soft costs we anticipate moving forward through this five-year monitoring program, as well as construction management, construction support, is about $500,000. And the hard costs, as far as the construction of the project, being the dune, the biofiltration basin, and planting these features, is about $2 million with a 20% contingency. As far as next steps, we've hit on some of these, but CEQA permitting, we anticipate having that approved or certified mitigated negative declaration and permits in hand, hopefully really early in 2021. Once we have some assurances from the agencies, we can go out to bid, and we're targeting 2021, and we feel pretty good about that date. And that would start the 40-day bidding process. Kind of moving forward from that date, we anticipate construction starting in March, going through June. And then the native planting of both the dune and biofiltration basin would happen in the fall of 2021 to take advantage of the winter season and water coming from the sky as opposed from hoses. And that's all we have for today. Our emails are here at the bottom if you have any questions about the project, and open up for questions.
Brad Damitz, could you elaborate? You already clarified, all the hard work we did in attempting to move the sand sediment stockpile from the airport to another site, so that we would no longer have to continue to pay the airport. And to be clear, the airport has partnered with us. They were required to charge us in order to store the sediment at the airport, but they have been cooperative with us and have extended, due to these unforeseen circumstances and the desire of everyone to be able to beneficially reuse the sand that was originally removed from the launch ramps for beneficial reuse at the West Trail. And fortunately, FEMA has continued to support us and give us extensions in staging the sand, and actually will pay for the sand to be relocated as well. Brad, could you confirm just so that the public and commissioners are aware that the cost for the storage has a high likelihood of being reimbursed?
Yeah, we were approved a couple years ago, year and a half ago, when the dredging occurred, even in advance of that, because it was the result of a FEMA event with the heavy rains that caused the problem in the first place. They committed to funding the full project through, getting it off of that site and back to the final location, which is under the West Trail.
Thank you, Brian and Brad. It's very exciting to hear that we're expecting to start construction in the spring of 21. I wanted to ask you, is the CEQA permitting running behind it all given COVID, or is the date that you cite the expected approval to happen based on current estimates given their workload?
Yeah, so I would say under normal circumstances, non-COVID, we would have had this thing out to bid already and we would have had the permits in hand. The dates that Brian presented are, we're being conservative and trying to be realistic. So we don't expect it to go any past that date. So, ideally it would be sooner.
Yeah.
But it's all due to the, state agencies had furloughs for their staff and working from home and everything. They've got a backlog. Not to make excuses for them, but there's a lot going on. So
yeah, no, it's understandable, and given all the overlapping jurisdictions for an undertaking of this extent, it's it really is taking a village. I see a member of the public has her hand raised, Kimberly Williams.
Hi, I just have a question about the sand from the airport. You said that was removed from the launch ramps previously. Is there any contamination issue with that sand? And maybe this was answered before and I'm sorry I missed it. I'm just curious, would that sand be more contaminated because of the location it came from than the location on the other side of the harbor? And does that present any issue?
No, it's a great question. In order to get the permission to use it and even stockpile it, we had to get extensive testing done. So we got the grain size testing done in advance of the airport, and then they required us to do chemical as well. And it was very clean. A lot of the background, a lot of the levels of different contaminants were even lower than what they would be at background levels in San Francisco Bay. So it's very clean material, it's good sand, and there's no reason not to use it at the project because of that.
Great, thank you.
Welcome.
Great. Are there any other questions or comments?
I don't see any at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lizzie. Well, I'll entertain a motion for approval. The recommended motion here.
I see Tom's hand is up, Nancy. I'm sorry.
I can only see the screen sharing, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
Commissioner Matoush, go ahead. Commissioner Matoush?
I'll start again. I didn't see that my other mute was on. So Brad and Brian brought up that this is challenging as it's a new approach. To me, it's troublesome to be a guinea pig for folks that want to test how best to move forward on these type projects, however useful they may be. But I'd also like to point out that this does not include any dredging in the inner harbor. There's a great need in the inner harbor, and there's also a big difference between agencies supporting the project and actively moving forward to help us proceed. Unfortunately, as the agencies dawdle, it costs the Harbor District funds that could be used in a beneficial manner. I was very glad to hear that FEMA will be reimbursing a number of these costs, but still there's a difference between agencies, the way they proceed at one speed and get anything done. This actually has an effect on our day-to-day operations. People look at this and wonder how long this is going to take us.
Thank you, Tom. Allison M., I see your hand raised.
Hi, just unmuted. My comment is along the lines of Mr. Matoush, and that is just to follow up and make sure that FEMA is timely making these reimbursements, especially if it's from a prior event and that's not obvious to the commissioners. So just so that there's no lapse, and just to make sure that there's not something that needs to be done, like generally you declare the state of emergency to get the FEMA funds, and maybe that's already underway and it is being paid. And if it hasn't been, you know, so I'm just kind of seconding what board member Commissioner Matoush just said, which is to make sure it's happening just as a taxpayer. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Jen Crawley?
Yes, thanks so much for the update, Brian and Brad. I think we're moving along, and I know that the community, at least the people I've been speaking with, you know, when I was campaigning, are very excited that we're moving forward with this. I agree with what Tom said as well. FEMA is usually they're really good about reimbursing, so I'm not as worried, but I do think that there's going to be a time lag as there normally is. So, you know, we just have to keep on top of it. So, but I would like to make a motion to approve that. Let me just pull up I'd like to make a motion to approve an increase in the capital expenditure appropriations of an amount not to exceed $114,904 to cover anticipated additional soft costs for the GHD team to continue efforts on the West Trail Living Shoreline Protection Project.
Great. I'll second that. Melanie, roll call.
Commissioner Brennan, Commissioner Lorenz, Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Jane Crawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush.
Aye.
The motion carries. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, John and Brian and Brad.
Thank you.
We'll move on now to item number 9, Oyster Point Marina East Dock Replacement Project Request for Proposal. And this is John Moran's as well, isn't it?
Yes. Commissioners, this item is a motion pursuant to a publicly advertised request for proposal. Authorize the general manager to enter into an agreement with the preferred firm, Moffitt & Nichol, for design, engineering, permitting, and construction support services for the Oyster Point Marina East Dock Replacement Project, Alternative 2, Docks 12, 13, and 14, for an amount of $488,000, with a 10% contingency in the event that there is a need for change orders due to unforeseen challenges, and authorize the general manager to issue change orders up to the contingency amount and approve an increase in capital expenditure appropriations of $536,800 to be funded by available working capital. Oyster Point Marina was originally constructed in the 1960s. Operation and maintenance of the marina, which is located on land owned by the city of South San Francisco, was transferred to the San Mateo County Harbor District in 1977 via a 49-year joint powers agreement. In the 1980s, the district replaced the original docks in the West Basin and expanded the marina into the East Basin with construction of a new breakwater. In 2012, the guest dock, Dock 11, and Dock 11 were replaced. Moffitt & Nichol was chosen to lead the design engineering efforts for that project, and a Weta ferry terminal was also constructed. The marina currently has 408 slips spread over 12 docks. Docks 1 through 7 are in the West Basin, and guest dock 8 and docks 11, 12, 13, and 14 are in the East Basin. In 2018, the district entered into an MOU with the city of South San Francisco, in which the district agreed to replace docks 12, 13, and 14 with dock 12 first, as all of the old timber floating docks have outlived their useful life. Therefore, the district requested qualified firms or individuals to submit design, engineering, permitting, and construction support proposals in 2 parts. Alternative 1, design, engineering, permitting, and construction management for the replacement of Dock 12 alone. And alternative 2, design, engineering, permitting, construction management for replacement of Docks 12, 13, and 14. Staff publicly advertised the request for proposal, which closed on October 1st. The services outlined in the RFP include all aspects of project design, engineering, permitting, preparation of 100% construction plans, funding assistance, supporting the bid process for selecting a contractor, and construction support services. 3 firms responded to the RFP, and in accordance with the terms of the RFP, the district's evaluation committee thoroughly reviewed the responses and found that Moffitt & Nichol best met the district needs for this particular project. Moffitt & Nichol's cost form was evaluated and found reasonable for the scope. The design engineering cost for Dock 12 alone, alternative number 1, was $283,000. Due to economy of scale, the design engineering cost for all 3 docks, which was alternative 2, was only $494,000. Combining the design engineering permitting for all 3 docks at once results in a considerable cost savings of approximately 43% for each dock. In addition, all regulatory agencies encourage programmatic permitting. Therefore, staff recommends the board approve moving forward with alternative 2, the design engineering permitting of all 3 docks at once. In accordance with the RFP, staff were able to negotiate in good faith with the preferred firm, Moffitt & Nichol, bringing the total architectural design, engineering, permitting, and construction support proposal cost for alternative 2 down to $488,000. If the board approves moving forward, public workshops will be conducted and proposed design plans along with engineering estimates will be brought to the board for consideration. The board can then decide whether to move forward with construction of all 3 docks at once or construct 1 dock at a time. Therefore, there will most likely be considerable cost savings if all docks are constructed at the same time. But that'll be a decision that the board can make at a later time if in fact the board does elect today to choose alternative 2 and do the design engineering permitting for all 3 of the docks at once.
Thank
Happy
you
to
so
answer
much,
any-
John. Thank you, John. We have a member of the public who'd like to comment. John Olam.
Thank you, President Rearing. Again, to remind everybody, the Harbor District is an enterprise district. It is supposed to make money on the investments that it makes. We're supposed to be shooting for the district funding itself. And I don't see how any of you has any idea whether these investments that you're about to make using taxpayer money are ever going to pay back. Apparently they have not, considering that the state of the docks are such now that they're totally at end of life and there is no money available to pay for them. There's no money put aside. Nothing's been taken out of the profits. So I'm wondering, is this matter? Is the Harbor District still an enterprise district? Is it supposed to operate in a manner that returns money to the taxpayers, or is it supposed to subsidize any Bayside city's marina? And why aren't we subsidizing anything in Redwood City or Burlingame? If that's the way the Harbor District is supposed to work. If it's not an enterprise district, but instead is just a pass-through for taxpayer money to other agencies, that should be made clear. So I'm hoping somebody there will ask staff, is this project make financial sense? If we replace all those docks, will there be customers for those docks? Those docks are supposedly designed for 60-foot yachts. You no longer have a fuel system out there. And so I have not heard any of this addressed. You just keep right on going as though you're going to spend the money but there does not seem to be any analysis of, is this the best way to spend that money? Hopefully one of you will address that. Thank you.
Thank you. Allison M., I see your hand up.
Hi, I am one of the co-founding members of a nonprofit called San Francisco Bay Marinas for All. And one of our objectives is to preserve and maintain marinas in and around San Francisco Bay. And what has happened for the last many decades in private marinas and even some public marinas is maintenance hasn't been going back into the marina, into the trust. It's a fiduciary obligation under the public trust doctrine to put money back into the trust and keep it maintained. And one of the things that happened at Pete's Harbor is they made anywhere between $50 and $80 million, never paid their rent, never had it insured, and never put any maintenance back into the docks. And when it came time for a bunch of affordable housing to go and for people to lose this landmark, they said, oh, well, it's so decrepit, it has to be pulled out. And basically admitting that they were slumlords, right? Same thing happened at Docktown. Same thing has happened all over the Bay. And really, it's a hallmark of good management to do necessary upgrades and maintenance and to put that money back into the trust. And these were marinas that were being overseen by BCDC and the State Lands Commission, which just completely was sitting down asleep on the job for decades. So I think you guys are on top of it. I think you're doing what's required. You know, as the investment, and marinas are cash cows, they make a lot of money. These people made a lot of money and they absconded, leaving everyone else with derelict infrastructure. So thank you again for the manner in which you're managing this district. And the district is the Oyster Point Marina and the Pillar Point. It's not all these other marinas. So you're in your scope and you're in your lane, and I appreciate what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any commissioner comments on this item? No, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Approve. All right. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Melanie, we have a motion and a second. Could we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Ryring?
Aye.
Commissioner Jane Crowley?
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush?
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan? Commissioner Lorenz?
Thank you. The motion carries. And item number 10 is a draft response to the RWCQB proposed TMDL amendment to the basin plan and supporting staff report at Pillar Point Harbor. Mr. Pruitt, this is your item.
Thank you very much. Let me share my screen real quick, if I can find it. I believe that is not the right one.
I saw it for a second, Jim.
I'll get it. It's there. Do you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to brief the San Francisco Regional Water Quality Board proposed amendment to the basin plan that would set the total maximum daily limit, or what's known as a TMDL, with respect to the bacterial load at the beaches of Pillar Point Harbor and Venice Beach. Now, hopefully, if the next slide will appear. Did it move?
No, it did not.
How about now?
Yep. There you go.
Okay, I hit the right screen. As discussed last month At the October board meeting on October 13th, the Water Control Board published a proposed basin plan amendment to establish a bacterial TMDL and associated implementation plan for Pillar Point Harbor and Venice Beach. In addition to the proposed basin plan, the Water Board also issued a supporting staff report entitled Total Maximum Daily Load for Indicator Bacteria in Pillar Point Harbor and Venice Beach. The Harbor District has until December 1st, 2020 to make any comments on the proposed amendments and supporting staff report. A proposed response for your consideration and approval was developed and is attached to your board packages. It is also posted online with our agenda. The district does not disagree with the fact that there's an issue with bacterial contamination on the beaches of Pillar Point Harbor and should fully support the Water Board's mission to reduce it. The waters at the beaches have routinely exceeded acceptable levels of indicator bacteria. As stated by the Water Board, bacteria densities in the water of the beaches in Pillar Point Harbor exceed the numeric water quality objectives for Enterococcus or coccus, which are a type of bacteria that indicates the potential for fecal contamination and elevated risk of pathogen-induced illnesses to people. These exceedances have led to health advisories and beach closures by San Mateo County, and the district also recognizes that these same beaches have been on the beach bummer list issued by Heal the Bay. The proposed amendment to the basin plan will set the TMDL and establish an implementation plan for Pillar Point Harbor to reach the TMDL limits set by the Water Board. What's a TMDL? In short, the TMDL specifies the maximum amount of pollutant that a water body can receive and still meet water quality standards, and allocates the acceptable pollutant load to point and non-point sources. For example, within the reports, the TMDL for marina vessels and harbor amenities is 0. Acceptable TMDL for harbor operations is 30 CFUs under 100 milliliters or less. CFU standing for colony forming units. The limit for TMDLs on the beaches of Pillar Point Harbor is also set at 30 CFUs under 100 milliliters or less. As discussed previously, the proposed plan amendment also establishes an implementation plan and assigns responsibilities to involved agencies for the Harbor District to, and directs the Harbor District to take action. Those actions include begin our enhanced no dumping education efforts to vessel owners, evaluate effectiveness and proper performance of sewage collection systems for the harbor marina and harbor amenities, inspect sewer and stormwater laterals and all other components connecting facilities at Pillar Point Harbor to the sanitary sewer system, prioritize sewer system and public restroom repairs, establish and implement protocols to enhance efforts to identify and correct illicit sewage dumping from boats, begin or boost existing actions to control runoff from loading docks, dumpsters, food service, and refuse areas, and submit a status report annually describing the implementation's actions and activities taken. If in 5 years that plan, the TMDLs are not reached, the district will have to go into phase 2 as directed, and that will require us to submit a report on our enhanced plan on how the district intends to meet the set limits. And that's after 5 years. District concerns with the plan and the staff report. While the directed actions of the implementation plan are good practice and are already implemented and are ongoing at Pillar Point Harbor, they're not based on the actual proven source of bacteria at the harbor beaches. The source of bacteria is from outside the harbors and outside the harbor district's jurisdiction and control. Another issue is that all beaches in Pillar Point Harbor are treated as one. The staff report fails to reflect past and current project and initiatives and take them into consideration. Eight separate entities are being tasked to coordinate a single regional response. And finally, the inclusion of Pillow Point Harbor in the title of the proposed basin plan amendment and associated staff report are overbroad and prejudicial to all harbor interests. And I'll go into that a little bit further later on. Starting with the TMDL area, the Pillow Point drains approximately 3,920 acres. Most of the Pillow Point Harbor drainage area is open space and forested land at 72%, followed by low and medium density development at 21% and agriculture and pasture land at 5%. 2% of wetlands are also included in that. Pillow Point receives inflows from Denison, St. Augustine, and Deer Creeks, and the levels of bacteria in the outfall samples consistently exceed the limits during dry and wet seasons. And you can see from the slide there, the entire watershed area is encompassed in red line, but Pillow Point Harbor is actually is outside that red line, and but it's still being held responsible for the water quality that we receive. There's 5 beaches in Pillow Point Harbor, or excuse me, there's beaches in Pillow Point Harbor. There's 6: Mavericks Beach, Marsh Beach, Yacht Club Beach, Capistrano Beach, Inner Harbor Beach, and Beach House Beach. Of the 6 beaches in Pillow Point Harbor, 3 beaches above the high water mark are under jurisdiction of the county and not the harbor district. Another consideration is that the basin plan has taken all beaches in Pillow Point and treated them as one beach, as I mentioned before. This decision was made by the Water Board based on the fact or the closed-in nature of the harbor itself. However, as I will detail later, each of the identified beaches are impacted by separate and distinctive watersheds, each requiring separate plans to address the sources of bacteria. Mavericks Beach may be being impacted by the outfall from the Pillow Point Bluff, but this issue will be addressed during the West Trail project that was earlier briefed today. Pillow Point Marsh is a beach located on the western side of Pillow Point Harbor. It includes 18 acres of protected salt marsh, conveys runoff from the Half Moon Bay Airport, Pillar Ridge Mobile Home Park, and several agricultural fields, all of which are outside the district's area of responsibility and authority to influence. San Mateo County Parks and Recreation manage the Pillow Point salt marsh. Capistrano Beach is impacted by 3 different outfalls. The first being Denison Creek. Denison outfall drains onto the western end of Capistrano Beach. The upper Denison Creek watershed is mostly open space used for municipal water supply for the coastside water district. A few agricultural fields are scattered throughout the watershed. Low watershed residential areas of El Granada are drained by the engineered channel to the creek. Commercial businesses, which are also drained by the storm drain ditches and an engineered channel, are located near the creek mouth. These flows have been observed within the channel, suggesting infiltration of groundwater and irrigation return from flows. Denison Creek drains into the harbor, again, on the edge there, and the entire watershed of Denison Creek is beyond the authority of the harbor district to influence or direct action. The center of Capistrano Beach contains the Capistrano outfall. That outfall is a completely piped system. It is a 15-acre catchment that is almost entirely impervious and contains commercial businesses such as hotels, shops, restaurants, brew pubs, large parking lots. Some storm drains this catchment have small amounts of flow year-round, which appears to be the result of groundwater seepage into the pipes, irrigation return flows from commercial businesses. The entire catchment is also beyond the jurisdiction of the harbor. Finally, St. Augustine drains onto Capistrano Beach. The headwaters of the St. Augustine Creek are comprised of open space. However, the creek enters a piped at the upstream boundary of the urban area, less than a half mile from the harbor. The pipe receives stormwater runoff along its length. The county recently lined a portion of the St. Augustine line under their jurisdiction, and the district cleaned and inspected the portion of the pipe under district jurisdiction. This is expected to improve the water quality at the St. Augustine outflow, and we're currently testing that with RCD. The Beach House Beach, Deer Creek outfalls onto the Beach House Beach next to the boat launch area. Deer Creek watershed is larger than that of St. Augustine. It maintains the natural bed and banks throughout most of its length. However, the creek channel is restricted by residential development along its bank. Deer Creek enters in a culvert at Highway 1 and discharges to the beach via an outfall just by the boat ramp. The entire catchment of Deer Creek, again, is outside the jurisdiction and influence of the district. So all those outfalls flow to the district, but the district has no control over what is in those outfalls or influencing them. So what have we done to address water quality in the harbor? We've done several things, and we've been working with the Resource Conservation District, large amount of outreach, source identification, corrective action. Over the past several years, in the Water Board staff report does give the district credit for the efforts and notify or enlist, including proving bacterial contamination in the harbor is not widespread, that the harbor is subject to a high range ratio, remove bacteria and other pollutants from the harbor. It showed that fecal contamination from human sources was rarely detected, that liveaboard boats within the inner harbor have not been shown to be a source of fecal contamination, showing that dog-associated markers were detected frequently and were linked to freshwater creek draining into the urban area, or from the urban area, showed cattle and deer waste were detected at Deer Creek, while at Denison Creek, the predominant source was wildlife, and the level of bacteria in the outfall samples consistently exceeded the limits during both the wet and dry seasons. However, in respect to the proposed basin amendment, the district still being directed to repeat several of the above steps to address the TMDL limits, even though they've been proven not to be a source of that bacteria. Identify parties to take action in the plan includes the San Mateo County Harbor District, the Sewer Authority of Mid-Coastside, California Parks and Recreation, City of Half Moon Bay, Granada Community Services District, San Mateo County, Caltrans, and Browning Ferris Industries. No lead agency was identified. This can be problematic, especially given the Harbor District's role as a receiver of contamination, vice being the source. The Water Board does encourage all parties to work together, but not mandated, and no clear leader. And finally, both the proposed basin plan and the staff report, the TMDL limit and reference Pillar Point Harbor itself, or they reference Pillar Point Harbor itself. The issue is that the contamination has been proven to be at the beaches and not in the harbor. The harbor does not exceed tolerances for bacteria. The harbor operations have been proven not to be a substantial cause of elevated bacteria at the beaches. However, by listing Pillar Point Harbor in the title of the document without the qualifier of beaches is overbroad and insinuates the entire harbor is contaminated, which, as we know and have proven, is not the case. The responsive letter requests the Water Board to add the qualifier to the title as to not implicate unintentionally the entire harbor with the contamination. These issues that I just briefed are more fully explained in the draft response, and I stand by for any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Jim. This was a terrific report. I'd like to know if we can publish this information on our website on a spot that will be more available to the public than just under our agenda item. This is significant information, and I sincerely thank you for your work on it. Understanding these issues is quite an undertaking, and turning that understanding into such a concise and comprehensible slideshow clearly took a significant amount of time. I've thought a lot about how the name Pillar Point has been featured in the worst of reports of beach health and pollution, and we've taken a lot of heat for issues that are largely beyond our control. Without serious buy-in from all surrounding jurisdictions, we can't be successful in our endeavors to clean up the sources of the bacteria. The primary concerns you identified, Jim, are essential to understanding the issues we face. I was struck during the recent election with the way some candidates were campaigning on a platform of cleaning up the harbors, as if, number one, the pollution is coming from our properties. Number two, the contamination levels are the fault of district operations. Number three, we are able to cure it, that we would be able to cure it on our own. And number four, that we have a lion's share of the responsibility to do so. I'd like to put the idea out there to get a roundtable discussion going with the parties involved, including the county, the water board, the city of Half Moon Bay, Granada Community Service District, Caltrans. You identified parties required to take action, and I think that's where we should start, is by all putting our heads together. So thank you again for this. Commissioners, members of the public, I see, I'm going to take the public first. John Ullum.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. Mr. Pruitt, that was an incredibly painful presentation. I suspect there are 8 other agencies that are making the same rationales, that it's somebody else's problems, that it's so unfair what they're saying about us, that even the president, Ms. Raring, feels necessary to bring politics into it again because somebody said they wanted to clean up the harbor. There is a reason why the harbor is having so many issues. You see, there are streams that drain into the Pacific Ocean from Canada all the way down to Mexico. And they have the same sort of cows in the hills and the same sort of raccoons, the same sort of dogs, the same sort of everything that every other beach has with a stream that comes out of those hills. The reason that the harbor district is being focused on is because you've enclosed that outflow inside the harbor. Not saying that's your fault, not saying there's any other way it might have been able to be done. I don't see how you could build a harbor without it. But to sit there and just whine about how it's so unfair how they're portraying us. Well, you know, screw that. Who cares about what they say about the Pillar Point Harbor? It doesn't reflect on the harbor. No one looks at it that way. It's just for politics that you're all like making this a big fit about this. Maybe what you need to do is get angry and go to those people that you say are polluting your harbor, instead of sitting here whining about why it's not our fault and all the wonderful things we have done. This is why people are frustrated with government in America. This goes on every day with people like Nancy and like Mr. Pruitt blaming it on somebody else.
Allison M., I see your hand up.
Hi, thanks. I have a completely different perspective. So number one, facts are facts and truth is truth. And a lot of people, you know, into all kinds of theories don't want to admit that. Your charge is the Harbor District. That's all you can do. That's all you can analyze and report on. In my view, that was an incredibly detailed report breaking down where the various you know, influences are coming from. And I'm really glad I was on this meeting. It's important to know that. These have also been charges that are thrown at various marinas that either have liveaboard communities or don't, whether that's Docktown or even West Point. And it's really important to realize what the risks are in these bacterial counts, where it's coming from, and then what you're able to address. And I absolutely agree with the comments of President Reiring, which are, you can only address what's in your jurisdiction. You can absolutely make the other agencies aware. You can seek their help, their input. I don't think you need to get angry to do that. In fact, I think you need to stay calm to do that and to get people to work together and not just always, angrily point the finger at people. None of us are present on the other meetings in the other parts of California where the same cows are. Maybe they're saying the same thing and they're working together collaboratively. But, really, please, I'm just so sick of, all of this, insulting and pointing fingers. Just do what you can do that's in your scope and reach out to others. And that's why I'm so glad you guys are so professional, because people want to work with you. And so I'm really glad I was at this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't see the thank you card come up there, so I will say thank you. And Kimberly Williams, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Reiring, for the comments that you just made about working with others to solve these problems. On behalf of San Mateo County chapter of Surfrider Foundation, we also, as you may know, do testing in the harbor, and we have been looking at how to collaborate with others to help solve this problem. We've also partnered with the Resource Conservation District, and I appreciate that you've been doing so as well. So I would like to say that going forward, we're happy to help in any way that we can. I'd also like to encourage you to concentrate on the areas that you do have influence over. While bacterial contamination tends to be a flashpoint, I think there are other kinds of contamination that you can reduce with some of the measures mentioned, especially around the docks and the parking lots and those areas that are within the Harbor District's jurisdiction. And then lastly, I think this is a great opportunity to collaborate with the other agencies and entities, and would be curious about who the commission recommends to take the lead in this effort, or would you like to take the lead? I think that would be an important thing to think about first. So thank you again.
Thank you. Commissioner Chang Corrali?
Yes, thanks so much, Jim, for the presentation. I thought it was really good and just kind of laid out, where we were, where other agencies are, and how, we can work together. I think it's an opportunity for us to work together, like we've been doing with the Resource Conservation District. I know that TJ Gauthier is I think he's in the meeting, and I want to give a quick shout out to the RCD, because I think it's important that the answers that we put together, or the responses we put together, are kind of in conjunction with the RCD, which I think has sometimes a much bigger picture view than what we have. And so they can see things in a different light, and kind of help us outline what's within our realm and what's not within our realm. I do agree that there really are no boundaries when it comes to water quality, with some of the public comments. And so I love your idea, Nancy, that, we do a roundtable, or, put together a roundtable. I don't know how we do it, since this is, the first time the idea has come up, but let's think that through at some point, because I think that water quality is an issue that is a concern for all of us, not just the Harbor District. I do think that the Harbor District and probably other agencies might feel that they're prejudiced, and I don't blame them. But let's try to figure out the solution and use this as an opportunity to do so. And instead of getting emotional and angry, I'd rather channel our energy into something positive and finding a productive way of working together to come up with the solution. So TJ Gauthier, thank you to the RCD for helping us, identify the big picture scenario, and also helping us kind of put together the responses that I think are relevant. and Jim, thank you. I thought that report was great. Is that going to go on our website? Because I think the public should be able to access that so that, some false narratives may be corrected.
The draft memo or the draft
Your
response.
Your presentation.
Yes, I can put that out.
Okay.
I can also put that up.
Yep, I thought that was really good, very concise. The report was really good. And again, thank you to RCD for working with us on those responses. And Nancy, let's figure out how to get this roundtable set up. That's a great idea.
That sounds good. Yeah, thank you, Jim. If it's possible to put that presentation up on our homepage, not just buried under an agenda item somewhere, I think that'd be very helpful for the public.
Yeah, I agree. Great idea. Great comment. Thanks. And thanks to the public who've made comments, because I think that we all care about the same thing, which is to have great water quality. And it's going to take a whole lot of effort from a whole lot of different agencies.
Yeah, I think so too. Commissioner Matoush, do you have any comments?
Yes, I wanted to just say that Mr. Pruitt did an excellent job at pointing out the sources of contamination. San Mateo County Harbor District has been the punching bag for beach water quality issues. The source of the contaminants is local watersheds that feed into the harbor area, not the harbor district itself. And this has been talked about for years and years and years, actually decades. And I too thought this was an original idea, but it's already been expressed. Could this lead to a round table that includes all 8 management areas? Actually, we should specify 9, because I've been to presentations by the Stormwater Runoff Prevention Program, and they've got funding in this area, but set up plans for each agency to step up their management responsibilities, not just a round table for the sake of having a meeting, but each single district should be assigned a set of working orders that we should everybody in the public should be able to track and see how each of the different agencies is working towards correcting this issue. The San Mateo County Storm Prevention Runoff Group has targeted various areas of the county and has put a lot of money in various streams. How best to get that group to step up their activities on our local creeks that feed the harbor?
That's great. Those are great points. Thanks. I'm making notes as you both are speaking. This is good. Great.
So I'd like to make the motion, Nancy, through the chair, to authorize the general manager to sign the proposed response to the RWQCB as drafted and attached to this staff report.
Well, I'm happy to second that. Melanie, roll call.
One more comment.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Matoush.
Somewhat targeted towards Jim. So we send them this nice, polite letter asking them for changes. If they don't implement all of our changes, how could we, shall we say, encourage them more heartily? And I think about how the Monterey Bay Marine Sanctuary has dragged their feet on things. I think about how none of our commercial fishermen can crab right now because of a threatened suit by Center for Biological Diversity against the Department of Fish and Wildlife. But how do we actually get these things in there so people understand that we're working very diligently towards all this and we want to see these changes truly implemented?
So what are you saying, Tom, that we should add more to this?
No, I'm just asking, we send this nice polite letter and then let's say that all these changes are not implemented. What's our next step?
The next step is once all the agencies submit responses, or those who are members of the public who submit responses to the water board have to do it by December 1st. And then in February, we'll have an opportunity at a public meeting to voice our concerns again to the water board as they discuss and incorporate or not incorporate our suggestions.
All right, thank you.
But I also want to stress is many of the taskings from the water board, the harbor district has already done or is doing or has plans to complete. Many of the tasking already identified by the water board. The main point I'm trying to make in the letter was the fact that there is a water quality issue. We'll do what we can at the harbor district with respect to our operations. Our operations have been proven not to be a major contributor to the source of bacterial in the harbor or at the beaches. But to label the entire harbor in the titles and not restricted to the beaches, I think is detrimental to the harbor itself. And more to concur with the suggestions of working together with the other agencies and getting together. The water board encourages that. I think that will happen, and most definitely. And thank you for the stormwater prevention group. I'll definitely be looking into that.
Great, thank you, Jim. And Allison, I see your hand up.
Hi, just asking for an extension of speaking time by about 10 to 15 seconds to ask, would it be helpful for members of the public, Mr. Pruitt, to write directly and to reference this report back and the issues?
I know that the water board has put out a notice and is encouraging comments so that so their report and the resulting regulation can be the best that it can be. So I encourage all members of the public who are interested in this topic to read the reports, the staff report and the draft amendment to the plan and provide their input.
Thank you. John Olam, you have a comment?
Yes, thank you. Well, your roundtable idea is great, but of course that's the standard line that people always use to push things down the road. So I would think that what should come out of all this is that the harbor district should be the lead agency on this. I mean, it is being included into your backyard. And so maybe if the harbor district were to, instead of trying to, be nice about it, were to take the lead on it and say people are dumping garbage into our harbor. And there ain't nothing we can do about it because the harbor is the way it is. But again, you got to remember that there are a lot of other harbors that don't have the same reputation as Pillar Point Harbor. And so you can talk about how it's other people's fault and you can muse about all the great things you have done, but it's still not fixed. And so I'm hoping that at least you will take this opportunity to say this is a great opportunity for you guys to take a lead on this and to show us how it's done. Thank you.
Oh, whoops.
You're muted.
Thank you, Lizzie. I think that's all the public comment and commissioner comment that we have. And unless anybody wants to raise a hand, I'm willing to entertain a motion on this item.
I think there was a motion.
Oh, we do have a motion.
There is a motion.
We're ready for roll
I made a
call.
motion. Yeah.
We're ready for roll call, Melanie. Thank you.
Commissioner Chan-Crowley,
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan, Commissioner Lorenz, Commissioner Ryring.
Aye. All right. I could not be happier to present this next agenda item. Employment contract for general manager. This is my item. In September, the board designated Commissioner Chan-Crowley and myself as labor negotiators to negotiate a new contract with Mr. Pruitt. After meeting with Mr. Pruitt and then meeting with the full board in closed session about the negotiations, this proposed 3-year employment agreement provides for the general manager to receive an annual salary of $172,720 a monthly automobile allowance of $350, a monthly housing allowance of $1,250 for the next year, with the housing allowance being reduced by 50% to $625 in 2022, and again by 50% in 2023, and other benefits as outlined in the proposed employment agreement, which is attached to this agenda item. And this agenda item seeks to get full board approval for the proposed employment agreement.
I'll make a motion.
Commissioner Chang Crawley?
Yes, to start the discussion, I am happy to make the motion to approve the 3-year employment agreement beginning December 11th, 2020 and ending December 10th, 2023 with James B. Pruitt as general manager, and authorize the board president to execute this agreement.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the table. We have a member of the public that would like to comment. John Ullum.
Thank you for the opportunity. As you know, Mr. Pruitt, about a month ago, I filed a PRA request asking for lists of people that President Nancy Raring and Commissioner Virginia Chang Crawley were blocking from using their political and forward-facing Facebook pages. As you know, in California, because you informed them of it, they are required to allow the public to comment on their official public Facebook pages. For example, Ms. Raring runs a page called Harbor Commission, yet she refuses to allow certain people to comment on it. And I filed that PRA request, and you informed her. Both Ms. Raring and Ms. Crawley responded back to you that they had nothing to provide. They asserted that they were not blocking anybody from their political Facebook pages. And to this day, I'm still blocked at harborcommission.com. And Nancy filters out all of the communications at that official page that she doesn't like. And they told that to you, Mr. Raring, or Mr. Pruitt. They actually told you that they were not doing that, and they put it in an official email. You then asked one of your employees to relate that email to me. Basically, you were used to pass on a lie. And Ms. Raring can sit there and smile, and Ms. Crawley can sit there and shake her head. But both of them filter out comments on their Harbor District Facebook pages that they don't like. And they told you that, and you lied on their behalf, and you had staff lie on their behalf. So I have to ask you, Mr. Pruitt, what won't you lie about? Do you have a line where if they tell you to say something to the public that isn't true, that it would bother you if it turned out if it wasn't true? Or are you okay with that? Because I believe you have more honor than Ms. Raring or Ms. Crawley credit you for. Maybe you'll respond to that, maybe you won't.
Allison, I see your hand raised.
Hi, thanks. I'll try to use just a little bit of time here. I would like to talk about honor. I got an unsolicited email from a Wanda Muscle, and it was really disturbing and disgusting. And I replied back, and so did my friend Carolina. And I got just a bevy and a slew of emails, including graphic language, describing like these certain pictures or whatever, which in my opinion, the verbiage was even more disturbing than potentially the original images could be. And it turned out that that was from Mr. Ullum. And so I don't know, he referenced a something.com, which is not a Facebook page because Facebook pages don't have a .com. So I don't know if he's confused or what, but also Mr. Pruitt isn't a lie detector. I mean, he is going to tell the public in response to a Public Records Act request, that which is proper under a Public Records Act request, and that which he knows. And it's really just not fair to put him on the spot and, suggest that he's lying. I just wish Mr. Ullum would just up his game, become a more decent person, and really just stop all this drama. People are fatigued with it. It's disgusting. and it's off-putting, and it's really just, it's not okay and it's not fair. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Chang Crawley.
Yes, so there is a motion and I think there is a second. So I just want to make a comment and say thank you to Jim, who has been a fantastic general manager in the 1 year period that he's been here during a very tumultuous time. Just for the public's knowledge, we did do, the board met and we, did a performance review. So this is not just out of nowhere. And the general manager, like any chief public administrator, is, basically the only person who reports to the board and over whom the board has authority. So I think it's fantastic that at least a quorum of the commissioners who were elected to do the people's work are here to actually vote on a contract to renew the services of the general manager for the next 3 years, because he's already done such a great job in his first year. Jim, just know that the people here, the 3 commissioners here, have a lot of confidence in what you're doing. And I believe the public does too. And that's why, as an extension and representative of the public, the 3 of us are very, very confident that you're going to continue to do a fantastic job. The feedback that I've received from the public during the time I was campaigning is that you have done a great job, and they're very glad that you have stayed in as the general manager of the Harbor District. So I don't think that any member of the public is going to wonder why we want to renew your contract for the next 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Virginia. And to add to your comment, I absolutely agree that Mr. Pruitt is going to continue to do a fantastic job. Jim, you are sharp, direct. You've been consistently honorable, above board, gone above and beyond the call of duty. And I've been impressed with you since we first interviewed you a year ago. I couldn't be happier that we are here a year later and looking at a 3-year contract to continue working with you. Thank you. So I think we have a motion and a second on the table and we're ready for roll call. Melanie.
I'm sorry. Commissioner Matoush?
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan? Commissioner Lorenz? Commissioner Ryring?
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Crawley?
Aye. Enthusiastically.
Thank you so much. That motion carries, and we're all excited to continue working with Mr. Pruitt and continue the trajectory we started this last year. We're going to be moving into close. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I cut you off? No, I didn't cut
I was
anybody off.
just thanking Jim for sticking with the Harbor District for the next 3 years.
I'm looking forward to it, and thank you.
We're going to be moving into closed session now for a conference with legal counsel on existing litigation. And I have a member of the public who wants to comment before we go into closed session. John Ullum.
Thank you. This was a mess that was created multiple years ago by the very people that Sabrina Brennan worked hard to replace. And the mess just continues. And I don't know what you're going to do because you don't have the money to fix the mess that you have out there. You don't have any money to expand Johnson Pier or whatever you want to call it. And you can't make any more room so you can treat your tenants with the same fairness. So I don't know what you're going to come up with. How much this is going to end up costing the district because of previous councils' ineptitude, or boards, I should say. But as usual, Nancy, you're doing everything you can to discourage public participation. You put a closed session right in the middle of the meeting. You prevent it from people from finding out what commissioner comments would be or finding out the activities report. You expect people to sit around in the middle of the day when most of us are making a living. And I am too, I'm working as I type this, that you would rather have me sit around for what, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour? How long is this gonna take? Why are you treating the public so disrespectfully? If you want to have a closed session, you do it like other agencies do it. You either put it at the front or you put it at the back of the meeting. Nancy, you're unmuted. You've been muted, Nancy. You're talking away. You don't even know it. That's how inept you have become. So she sits there talking, folks. She doesn't even know she's been muted. So at any rate, she decided that she doesn't want public participation. So she screws up the meetings in the middle of the meeting. She changes the orders of the meeting and cancels parts she doesn't like. And this is what we're going to be subjected to for as long as Nancy Raring is in charge.
Allison, I see you have your hand raised.
Hi. Let me put my camera on. I feel really strongly about this. Mr. Ullem, would you please just spare everyone? It's really unfair. It is not outrageous at all that there is a meeting in the middle of the day. The San Francisco Board of Supervisors meets at 1 o'clock during the day. The San Mateo County Board of Supervisors meets at 9 a.m., I believe, on every other Tuesday. And so they meet during the day. A lot of agencies do. There is nothing wrong with it. You've just shown that you will take this much time out of your workday to attend as a member of the public who is concerned. I'm working too. We're all working right now. And there's nothing wrong with that. The Zoom is a fantastic feature that allows us to do that. And who knows what will happen when people are out of the COVID timeframe and back into meeting in person. But that's then, and this is now. And there is absolutely nothing wrong. In fact, I'm really kind of a open access and a Brown Act kind of geek. And not only has this Harbor District been cleared of all that, right? The district attorney, Ms. Ryering pointed back, they're not pursuing anything. So when you go into public comment, they could right now be having people join the breakout room and speak and depriving everybody else here from hearing these public comments, but she's not. We're having these public comments here. These are public comments on a line item that is in a closed session meeting. They could break out, they could ask people to join, they could let people speak there and then have them leave that meeting, but they're doing it here, which is more access to you rather than less. And they could also set a different meeting and have it separate and apart before or after, but there's nothing wrong with this structure. So just give us a break.
I think that's the end of our public comment. Let's see, we're going to be going into closed session now. Can you take us to the breakout rooms? Melanie, no, it's Lizzie.
Sure can. Yep. They should appear on your screen momentarily.
I think we're all back. Yeah? Okay, we have nothing to report out on our closed session. We are on item F on the agenda, commissioner comments. Do any of the commissioners have public statements they'd like to make?
I just want to say thank you to you, Nancy, for kind of shepherding everyone through all of the issues that we've been dealing with. So thanks for your leadership in this for the entire year, but especially during election season.
Thank you, Virginia. And I want to congratulate you and Tom on being reelected to the Harbor Board as Harbor Board Commissioners. I know you both as very hard-working public servants, and I'm looking forward to working with you again for the next couple of years.
Thank you.
Let's see, we have information only August activity reports from the general manager and operations. And So I guess we're ready for a motion to adjourn our next regular
President
meeting.
Rowering, if I may,
Yeah,
I just want to mention that we had the recreational opening of crab season, November 7th. It was
Yeah.
bad weather that weekend, so a lot of boats didn't go out, and they were kind of waiting for the first open window to head out and get recreational crab. And that happened to fall right on Veterans Day. We had beautiful weather out here, beautiful weather, our beautiful seas, and the harbor was well used by people from all over the region to launch. And the harbor crew, our crew down at Pillar Point Harbor, did a fantastic job on keeping everything under control, especially COVID, and getting all the boats launched safe and recovered safely, and everybody in and out of that harbor in a safe manner. So I just wanted to publicly commend the harbor masters for their great work down there and their attention to the detail and making that a fantastic Veterans Day and crab festival or crab harvesting event for the recreational crabbers.
that's great. That's great. Thank you, Jim. I
just
realize,
have-
Virginia, just one sec. I also see that Bill Zemke is on our call, and I want to congratulate you, Bill. You're going to be joining our board in January, and I just want to say welcome.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
There we are. Did we hear you for the first time?
For the first time. How about that?
Well, thank you for attending our meetings and getting to know a little bit about the Harbor District business before starting this job.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Virginia, you had a comment?
Yeah, so Jim, this is probably more for Jim or maybe even John Moran. So with the increased cases or increased spike or numbers of COVID cases, what are we doing right now and working with other or in concert with other agencies, or I mean, what are we doing to be prepared for that, especially since winter is going to be upon us, if it really hasn't already been upon us?
I'll start off by just saying that the operations of Pillar Point Harbor and Oyster Point Marina I've always taken the COVID-19 pandemic very seriously, and under our general manager's direction, with the board support, we've continued to keep our harbor offices closed to protect the public and our essential worker staff. So our staff are continuing to socially distance from everyone, continuing to wear face coverings, ensuring that all public using our facilities are socially distancing and wearing face coverings. Our fishing piers and our docks, our main pier at Pillar Point Harbor, Johnson Pier, and all areas where people tend to congregate more frequently, whether they're buying fish product or using the fishing piers. We have painted markings every 6 feet on the ground so that to remind people to socially distance. So we've not really, since the onset of the pandemic, in May, we did reopen the fishing piers, but since then we've not loosened our restrictions at all, and we don't intend to do so.
Thank you, John. I did see that really hefty janitorial bill for COVID appropriate cleaning. Wow, must just be.
Yeah, they hit us with several months at once for that, but it is around $6,000 per month for both facilities. But you know, that additional cleaning of the restrooms and the additional portable toilets that we've installed as well, which we're continuing, portable hand wash stations throughout the facilities as well. All that's continuing.
Great.
Okay, thank you. And so, yeah, so we're doing what we can for our staff, but I just kind of sense this anxiety where people want to kind of come out. And so I mean, it sounds like we've still got the 6-foot marker, the lines there, right? And I guess we just have to be ever vigilant and without being too forceful, I guess.
Yeah, we've had, like General Manager Pruitt just alluded to, because of recreational crab season opening, you know, obviously once people are on their vessels out at sea with just their family members and their pods on their recreational vessels, you know, they're not exposed. So being out in the fresh air is healthy.
Good,
But
yeah.
we have had congregations at the launch ramps, which our staff have, under Harbor Master Chris Tibby at Pillar Point Harbor and Harbor Master Jim Merlo at Oyster Point Marina. Our staff have actually been down at the launch ramps trying to herd the cats, if you will, just to ensure that everybody continues to take it very seriously. And even while disconnecting their vessels from trailers and launching their actual vessels, that they are socially distancing. And for the most part, everybody is cooperating. I just got a nice email the other day from a citizen that used our launch ramp at Pillar Point Harbor and observed how busy it was, but also commented how it was being managed professionally.
Thank you.
That's great. Yeah, I see comments. There are online comments too that are they always seem to be very favorable to the district about the maintenance and the state of the facilities. So thank you.
And John just reminded me, I neglected to mention Oyster Point. They're also doing a fantastic job during these times and wanting to get out and recreate and get out in the ocean. The winds are coming back and going sailing, and they're busy over there too, and they're doing a fantastic job of keeping everybody safe, the launch ramp, the fishing pier, and on the docks themselves. So I commend them also.
Yes.
Thank you. So I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second. Oh, Tom, I think Tom had his hand up earlier. Tom.
Are you gonna do future agenda items?
Oh, we forgot that item.
That might be Tom's comment. I don't know.
Oh, sorry.
I'm going to withdraw my motion to adjourn.
I was just going to go on commissioner comments. Within the past couple of weeks, I attended the Dungeness Crab Task Force Whale Entanglement Group meeting. We talked about the upcoming season. I also attended the San Mateo County MPA Collaborative meeting. There's going to be a meeting November 23rd to determine whether commercial Dungeness crab will open December 1st. I can say from personal experience, there is a great deal of whale still out there. So I'm hoping these guys can get out and make some money, but it's looking kind of grim at this point.
Thanks, Tom. Do we have any future agenda items from commissioners?
Should we talk about the possible roundtable or how to set that up?
Yeah, but I'm not sure I'm ready to put that on a future agenda item as a future agenda item now.
Right.
I would recommend that we wait to set officially start engaging on all that until after the water board issues their final ruling.
I agree.
That's great.
We'll have to submit our responses.
I have it in my notes though, so we won't forget about it. Thank you. Thanks for asking that. All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Melanie.
Commissioner Ryring.
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Crowley.
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush.
Aye.
The motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Have a really nice Thanksgiving holiday.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye.